Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Tournament Game 1 of Lucid's Dominions tournament that he's running. You should have, hopefully you've seen LucidTactics video on this. But he is, as you may have guessed from what I just said, he's running a Dominions tournament. So we've got a 6-game round 1, and then the winners and I think the second place players from each of those games will proceed to a final game. After which, I don't know if there's a prize to this tournament. I don't think so. I think it's just for fun. But he asked me to participate, so I came and joined up. Actually, one of my subscribers mentioned it to me, and I popped onto Lucid's Discord server, and he welcomed me in. So, we are playing, this is a late age game, game 1. The ages were, I believe, randomly determined. So we are playing in the late age. We were allowed to ban certain nations, and we banned, what did we ban? We banned Lemuria, Raga, Relay, and Arcocephali, I believe. We left Atlantis, which might have been a bad decision, but anyway, I wanted to ban Arcocephali. So, we are playing, there are 8 players in the game, and I am playing as late age Tian Chi. So, my god, who will remain hidden somewhat for now. You may notice he's not here, so dormant, imprisoned, you'll see it in a little bit. The Salmon of Doubt is my deity there, and of course my soon-to-be prophet, Ford Prefect, over here will be leading the glorious armies of the Salmon of Doubt. Our enemies here, we have the Man with a Plan of Late Age Man. We have Dracula 2.5_final_final of Late Age Olm. We have the Salmon of Doubt. We have Carl the Undying Marks of Agartha. Chad Frontal Lobius of Late Age Cetis. Durin of Midgard, an interesting name for a nation of elves. Captor Captionist of Cute Monkeys of Patala. And Tryhard of Atlantis. Atlantis is definitely the one to beat here. Atlantis is a very, very powerful nation. So, playing as late age Tian Chi. Of course, if you'll recall, I did a long time ago, I did a basic nation analysis of late age Tian Chi, and the most interesting thing about them, to my mind, is these 3 mages here, which of course are basically the same guy, but with different old age penalties and different setups of the same magical path. So we can either have 2 Earth, 1 Death with a random from Air, Astral, Death, Nature. We can have 2 Nature, 1 Death with a random from Air, Earth, Astral, Death. Or we can have 1 Air, 2 Death with a random from Air, Earth, Astral, and Nature. So the thing that is most common among these is they all have death. They all have a chance, at least a chance to have death 2. You can also end up with, you have Earth 2, you have Nature 2, and you can get Air 2. So those are the paths you can have level 2 of from your various old man mages. Death, Air, Nature, and Earth. You can then also have 1 of Astral on any of those mages. Any of these guys can random Astral. You have Masters of the Way, so the classic old mages that every era of Tian Chi has, which can also random Astral. And then you have the Celestial Masters, which can give you Astral 2, potentially even Astral 3, and can easily give you, Air 2, more Air 2, you can have a little bit of Nature, you can have a little bit of, you can even have Water 3 potentially, although it's unlikely. The Celestial Masters are the weakest in this era. They started off strongest back in the early age, then they lost their fire magic, turned to earth, and got a little bit weaker in the middle age, and now they've gotten to their weakest yet, their fewest paths. They are still slow to recruit, and they are capital only. These guys can be recruited anywhere, so these are going to be the general bulk workhorse mages for late age Tian Chi. In terms of troops, of course, late age Tian Chi is largely carried by its powerful cavalry. These guys are all pretty much unexceptional. The heavy ones cost a lot of resources for relatively little bonus and protection, so if you're using infantry, probably going to use these guys mostly. You have archers with composite bows, but no crossbows, so kind of old technology at this point. But you have Barbarian Heavy Horse, which can be recruited anywhere and are very, very good for what they cost. 20, 27, 24, only half the recruitment points of most heavy cavalry. That is the big change. And so they're definitely worth spamming. They're good. I mean, they're solid cavalry. They're not really heavy cavalry. They don't have the prot of knights or the high defense skill of elves, but they're a good medium cavalry. They have a pillage bonus, which doesn't really matter, but they have a lance, they have a falchion, a hoof, and a composite bow attack. So heavy horse are solid. Regular barbarian horsemen aren't bad. They're not nearly as good because they only have one melee attack. They have the light lance, which has the charge bonus, so they do get 5 extra damage on that when they charge in, but then they only have one melee attack, so only 2 attacks per square. They're a little bit cheaper and lower in resources, but overall the heavy horse are much better. And then, of course, you do also have the Ancestor Vessels, your Sacreds. They are not spammable. They have very good stats, and they also have this Howling Bow attack, which has very good accuracy, is magic, and causes fear when it hits. So, useful, definitely, powerful, probably, in my mind, not really worth spamming over the Barbarian Heavy Horse, because you can have twice as many Barbarian Heavy Horse and achieve pretty much the same things. Like right now, I'm recruiting 3 Barbarian Heavy Horse. I could, if I wanted, recruit 2 Ancestor Vessels if I had the gold to do that instead. But I think I'm going to stick with the Heavy Horse. Your starting army is pretty garbage. You start off with 15 of these pike dudes, which are not super impressive, and 15 archers, which are also not super impressive in the late age. So expansion could potentially be a little bit of an early problem, but I think I'll manage it. My goal early on, since I don't have my god, because my god is asleep still, my goal early on is definitely going to be to secure more resources so that I can start churning out these heavy horse, because the resources are the big limiter for them. You may notice, looking at my scales, don't seem to have any productivity, and that's, you know, that's just how it is sometimes. You can look at my bless. You can also see that I don't seem to have any bless, and that will come into effect a little later, because, of course, with late age Tianqi, my strategy, as with all actually levels of Tianqi, my strategy is leaning pretty heavily on this spell right here, Wrath of the Ancestors. Since I do have access to so much death as late age Tianqi, once I get up to Conjuration level 7, I'll be able to cast this spell, just churn out, 20 or more 1 HP ethereal tiny ancestor spirits per death gem, per death mage. And of course, all of these guys do have death. So my every mage is a death mage, except for Masters of the Way, which I won't have all that many of. And Celestial Masters. Once again, I won't have all that many of them. Since all these guys are priests, I just have to assemble a small communion so that I end up with a Holy 3 mage on the field. And then I can use that Holy 3 mage to cast Divine Blessing at any point that I choose up to round 5. And of course, that will be kind of a key point of my strategy. So my Bless was built with that in mind. Now, incidentally, my Bless will also help the Ancestor Vessels, and I could potentially, in the late game, even maybe thug with Ancestor Smiths, albeit that's a terrible idea. It's very meme-ish. It's not the kind of thing that you really, really want to do, but, I mean, as late age Tianqi, you do get a Forge bonus on Ancestor Smiths. So, like, I don't know, maybe I'll try it at some point. Who knows? Probably not. In terms of other summons, you do lose a lot of the early age summons, the Demons of Heavenly Rivers and Demons of Heavenly Fires. You don't have access to as late age Tianqi. You lost those in the Middle Age, actually. You do have access to Celestial Hounds. You have access to Buffaloes. You have access to summoning ancestors one at a time. You can also summon Celestial Servants, who are very bad at fighting but are very fat. So, since they're only 1 Earth Gem nowadays, that might potentially be something valuable if only you had, like, more mages capable of doing it. Your Astral Random Ancestor Smiths can do it, and your Earth Random Celestial Masters can do it, but I don't know that it's really worthwhile. You can call Celestial Soldiers, which are pretty good. And then, of course, you have Wrath of the Ancestors. So, in general, my strategy here is going to be fairly Conjuration-focused. I'll want to get up to Wrath of the Ancestors pretty quickly, and or relatively quickly, at least, and proceed from there. I do have Magic 3 in scales, so my research should be fairly quick. Masters of the Way will get me 15 research points per turn per mage. I don't have any really, really cheap mages, unfortunately. Master of the Way is the cheapest they get. All of my other mages are 220, and they're fairly powerful, but 220 for a 4-path mage isn't really anything exceptional. They are also priests, so they have that, but Masters of the Way are probably what I'll be recruiting early on, and then once I have a little bit more money, I'll transition to pretty much entirely various Ancestor, Smith, Spirit Master, Ancestor Guide things. So there, that's how we're starting off. If we take a look at this map, we have. So let's look at my thrones actually. So we need 5 thrones to win. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 thrones in total. We only have 8 players in the game, and the Cataclysm is expected in about 6 years. We've got the Throne of Bureaucracy, the Throne of the First Stage, the Throne of Misfortune, the Inner Throne, the Outer Throne. Okay. The Throne of Gaia, that wouldn't be super useful. The Golden Throne would be quite useful, just to get adepts of the Golden Order. And then the Throne of Knowledge, which would also be quite useful, actually, because that would give me sages, which are great communion slaves and research monkeys. It would also give me lore masters, but I've never been super impressed with lore masters. The odds of getting a useful path combination out of this are really quite low, to be honest. Theoretically, they can give you any combo, but the odds of fishing out the combo that you're looking for at any given time are fairly minuscule, and they cost 300 gold and 2 turns each, so I just don't think they're worth it. Like, really, I don't. You can use them to research, I guess, but you may as well just use sages to research. You'll build up research slightly faster, and you'll spend half as much money at it. So lore masters, whatever. But that is, that's the situation. So of the 8 thrones, I do have, the thrones, we're using a nuke map. So the thrones are pretty equidistant. That throne is 4 steps from me. That throne's only 3 steps from me. That throne ends up being 3 steps from me. And so does that one. So that one's slightly further away. But if I'm lucky, I may be able to secure at least 1 or 2 thrones. Probably that one fairly early on. And then I can kind of use that as a basis to push outwards. I won't have my Bless online, of course, until my god wakes up. So we'll have to see how that goes. But I don't really need the Bless. I don't really want to lean on the Bless until fairly later on in the game. For right now, I'm going to be playing a little bit of a dangerous game, to be honest, because I'll be leaning on my scales and my troops, my cavalry, to keep me in the game until that Bless comes online. In terms of research, the first things I want to do, since I have a lot of death, I do want enchantment up to level 5 or so. I also, of course, want conjuration up to at least level 5 very quickly. I should be able to summon air elementals, and I should be able to summon at least small air elementals and possibly larger ones. And I can, with some of my ancestor guides. And I can also summon earth elementals with ancestor smiths. Enchantment, however, will give me the earth buffs for my troops. Strength of giants. And then construction will give me legions of steel. So those may be the first ways I want to go. Enchantment will also give me Seeking Arrow, which could potentially be useful, but I won't really be able to cast it. Actually, might be Alteration is the way to go first, because Alteration will give me the Earth Meld spells and the Earth buffs and Blight. Internal Alchemy nobody cares about. Yeah, it might be Alteration and Conjuration early on. So let's grab Conjuration down to level 3. That will give me lesser air elementals. And then Alteration down to level 5, probably, for Maws of the Earth. I think that'll be my early game research plan. I did start with level 1 in most things. Thaumaturgy could also be relatively useful, but I actually already have the Communion spells, which is the big thing that you want out of Thaumaturgy early on. I could get Mind Burn, try to form Communions early on, but my Communions are dependent on randoms, so I don't really want to lean on them as a big part of my strategy. I will eventually want Thaumaturgy level 4 so that I can get Auspex and Gnome Lore, and of course Haruspex at level 3, so I can remote site search for all those paths, but that will come a little bit later. So, that will be the turn 1 plan for now. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to this. Should be fun. So in any case, thanks for watching. I'll see y'all in turn 2. Okay, folks, turn 2. So this turn we got our prophets. So we have Bro with the Fro the Castellan, is the prophet of man with the plan. Kunhelmk. Yeah, that's the the umlaut O, the so Kernhemp, I guess, is the prophet of Dracula 2.5. Of course, Ford Prefect the General is the prophet of the Salmon of Doubt. Aiming for second, the Cave Captain is the prophet of Karl the Undying Marks. Durin, son of Durin, is the prophet of Durin. Baloo, the Bandar Commander, is the prophet of Captor Captionist of Cute Monkeys. And Balenstalin Often Breaks Naps is the prophet of Try Hard. Okay, God of Strength, the Great Potter, the Remote and Inaccessible Master, God of Dreams. That's Earth Astral, I think, which makes me think that Atlantis took the Great Kraken Commander, which I believe is Earth Astral, and is amphibious and stealthy, if I recall correctly, which is hilarious, by the way, that it's stealthy, because it's a size 6 octopus, and has 8 arms. King of Rainbows, King of the West Wind, Hugh Felled the First Tree, Prince of Wisdom. I'm not sure what all those are. I think this means that he has a bunch of paths, and thus a high research, I believe. This is high death, not unexpected. This is probably death blood for vampire summoning. Obviously, we have the Salmon of Doubt, Minister of the Celestial Bodies, Lord of Illusion, and Masquerade. Agartha has Master of the Rock, Hugh is on the Mountain, that's High Earth, unexceptional. Master of the Wind and of the Hoe, King of Inventions, I don't know what those are off the top of my head. Man-Eater, Lord of Fraud and Theft. I'm pretty sure the Man-Eater is blood. Lord of Fraud and Theft, I'm not sure. That might mean Turmoil Scales, but I'm guessing. And then we already talked about Atlantis. So, I hired the Snake Charmer, who is a terrible mercenary, but is a mercenary nonetheless. We also have the Armored Fist of God available for hire this turn. Ooh. I don't think I can afford them, though. Damn. Well, I have 131 gold. Actually, I could afford them by not recruiting a Master of the Way. So, we are going to bid all my money to hire the Armored Fist of God, because the Armored Fist of God is actually a pretty solid mercenary contingent. And we are sending Putin with his 50 militia and my own little expansion party south to Witch Haven in a bid to accumulate more resources. If we can just get some more resources, we can start churning out heavy horsemen a little bit faster, and then barbarian heavy horsemen will be able to expand very effectively. So, we're going to have our army. Basically, I'm sending in the militia to soak up the damage and get murdered, and then my actual troops will follow up, and my barbarian heavy horse, in particular, will sweep around the rear and hopefully assassinate the enemy commanders. There shouldn't be too many. This is heavy infantry and militia, so we should be able to take that pretty quickly. That's a tough province to crack, unfortunately. This is actually lizards in a forest, which isn't super common. I could actually go in this direction, because militia will kill lizards. They'll take casualties, obviously, but they will kill lizards. Let's grab Witch Haven first, and then we may actually join up with my 3 heavy horse and Giuseppe to clean out Shadowglade. I'm not sure. It'll depend on what else is around me. I'd like to take this large province if I can. I'd also, of course, like to secure farms. And finally, my final priority is to grab Comsath if I can. Hopefully I can. Not close enough to see any enemy capital names yet, so that's fine. Dikang here is just going to keep on rolling. And we should be in pretty good shape. Research is all set. We are good to go. Dikang is giving me a good 12 research per turn. So everything should be absolutely groovy. So, that's turn 2. I'll see y'all in turn 3. Okay, folks, turn 3. In Witch Haven, we won, but lost pretty much all of Putin's militia and 2 of my footmen in the process. That's fine. That's not actually a whole... that's not actually that much of a hit to my combat capability. I just lost my chaff fighting the heavy infantry. That's fine. They did their job. They let my barbarian heavy horsemen get around the back and assassinate the commanders. This army, then, is going to march up into Shadowglade, which hopefully, will have a good amount of resources for me. We're going to join up 3 more barbarian heavy cav to the attack. They are going to be set on hold and attack rear, just like the other lot, and then we'll give those guys to Ford Prefect as we go. Meanwhile, in the capital, we're recruiting several ancestor vessels and a barbarian heavy horseman. We're doing this because the numbers don't really matter at the moment. We're limited by resources. Ancestor's vessels are not particularly more resources than barbarian heavy horse are. So I can exactly zero out my resources, getting 4 Ancestor Vessels and 1 Barbarian Heavy Horse. In retrospect, I probably should have taken a point of turmoil for a point of productivity, just to bring those values closer together and maybe let me eke out another cavalry unit, but, you know, oh well, hindsight is 2020. So, hopefully we'll take this province next turn. After that, it would be ideal if I could manage to take 2 provinces. Now, I think I can probably take one of these provinces with my, or one of these provinces more like, probably this one, with, actually, you know what? No, I'm going to leave these guys here. So, here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, with 4 Barbarian Heavy Horse and 4 Ancestor Vessels, I can probably take a province like this, because I set the two groups on opposite sides of the map. I set them on, both on hold and attack rear, so they'll fire their bows for a couple turns and then charge. And the Ancestor Vessels, even functionally unblessed, should be able to bash their way through basic infantry pretty effectively. So I think they can probably take it. Now, the other cool thing is, as Tianqi, I can actually recruit Barbarian Cavalry everywhere. So what I can also do here is get a Commander and 2 standard Barbarian Horsemen. So I can get 3 of these guys, but no Commander this turn. Yeah, so I'm just going to start spamming out some Barbarian Horsemen while I'm thinking about it. I think the Heavy Horse, yeah, I can only get 1. 3. Or I can get 1 and 1. Barbarian Heavy Horse are really, really good. Barbarian Horsemen are merely pretty decent, because they only have the 1 light lance attack. So their melee attack density is much lower. Let's go 1 and 1 here, and then another Barbarian Horseman after that. And then next turn, we'll be able to recruit a commander and sort of help start building up an expansion party here in Witch Haven as well. So that'll be the plan. Otherwise, everything's just kind of going slowly as usual. And I guess I'll see y'all in turn 4. Short recordings here. There I go, moving the whole map again as I try to check on the status of my recording. So, I'll see y'all in turn 4. Okay, turn 4. So I took Shadowglade, lost some footmen, lost some militia. Shouldn't be too much of a problem. Recruiting more troops down here. I've got 1 Barbarian Heavy Horseman coming out and a commander. This is one of the interesting factors about late age Tianqi, of course, is that they can recruit these Barbarian Horsemen and Barbarian Heavy Horsemen, plus their cons anywhere. So this is almost, I think, unique that late age Tianqi has a recruit anywhere 120 leadership commander. Now they cost a lot of resources, so in most provinces you actually won't be able to recruit 1 every turn. But like, you can, in this province, for example, I could use this province to just recruit cons and not have to spend, under most circumstances, not have to spend, fort recruitment turns on cons. In fact, that might actually be a good idea. So instead of that, I'm just going to recruit a con. He's 2 commandment points. He's 2 commander points, commandment points. So he's still gonna, yeah. I don't know about that. I think we're gonna go back here, take out the Barbarian Horseman, get the commander. I think that'll be fine. But yeah, you can use other provinces to recruit your cons, so then save having to do so in your forts. You can see here I'm recruiting a Barbarian Heavy Horse, a Horseman, and a Lizard Warrior in this province. This province doesn't have scouts, unfortunately, but it does have cons. It just becomes resources become a real limiting factor. Anyway, this province I'm not going to be able to take with this army. This province and this province I don't think this army could take, and this army couldn't take them right now either. It might be able to. It's 7 heavy cavalry. With a province like this, or like this, you do have a pretty good chance of being able to run around back and assassinate the commanders. And if I was a gambling man, I may well try to do that. In fact, that might not be a terrible idea, because they do have the lance charges, they've got the falchions and the hoof attacks in melee combat. I could try to take Baguloth, which would be really, really good, because that's a lot of resources. So that would kick up my cavalry recruitment by at least a couple of more dudes per turn. I'm going to take the gamble. So here's the way I'm going to do this. I know my morale is lowered, but it should still be okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to set both of these on attack rear. Actually, we're going to set them on hold and attack rear. So while they're holding, they will fire their bows. And their bows have long enough range that they should be able to hit people fairly soon. And so we're going to spread these guys out on opposite sides. Have our commander tucked away back in the rear corner. Actually, he'll be up there right behind these guys so we can bless them. It will at least give them the +1 morale. And then stay behind troops. And so hopefully they will run around behind the enemy and assassinate the commanders and thus win the battle. It may take some casualties. We'll see what happens. Mercenary-wise, we do still have Putin here, although he only has, I believe, one guy left. Yeah, one sad little militia. Putin, incidentally, has become a hero. He does have heroic valor, so his leadership is buffed, which is sort of hilarious. He's also cursed, which I don't really care about. Fort Prefect the Prophet, still in perfect shape. He's going to take these troops onwards to capture this province, Northia. And so hopefully I'll end up with 5 provinces on turn 5, and then this group with this Khan will be able to join up with these troops, capture Wicker Woods, and start expanding in this direction. And pretty soon we should also be able to take Pranda, beat their heavy cavalry with our heavy cavalry, win the day, move up here and threaten Kamsath. Don't think we can take Duvan here. We have found Ulm. The Ulmish are to our left, to our west. So that probably means their capital is one of these provinces. If I recall correctly, Late Age Ulm tends to spawn in woods, I want to say. So he might be one of these. I don't know. We will find out. I haven't seen anybody on this side yet. Yes, I have. I take it back. I've seen Midgard. So I'm actually expanding right up close to Midgard with this move. It's a little bit dangerous, to be honest, because I might bump. We'll see. Don't see my northern neighbor yet. There's Man. Okay. So we've got Man. We've got Midgard. We've got Ulm. And down here we've got... Oh. That's right, this is kind of a small game. So Man is both my southern and my northern neighbor. How funny is that? Okay, so, yeah, because it's only an 8-person game. Interesting. Alright, so we've got Man, we've got Ulm, we've got Midgard. We'll see how it goes. That's the turn. I'll see y'all in turn 5. Alright, folks, turn 5, and we are already beginning to enter the very interesting phase of the game, the jockeying for position. So, I had a battle over in Boguloth, which I actually lost by a little bit. So, if we see here, we had our cavalry contingents off on the flanks. We blessed our ancestor vessels with just the +1 morale, and the cavalry charged in. They went for the rear, but they got hung up before they could properly engage all of the commanders. So the ancestor vessels got stuck. They did manage to rout off the vast majority of the enemy, but they then routed themselves. Even in the process of routing, the ancestor vessels actually killed pretty much everyone in their way. And we ended up with just a very, very small contingent of heavy infantry and one commander still holding the province. So I knew it was marginal, I knew it was a risk. Kind of worried this would happen, but oh well, we're still okay. And the mage got away along with 2 of the ancestor vessels. So we have Li Gong here, has 8 units, and Omarbi has a couple of units, and they are going to go on in themselves and take another bite at the apple. And we'll just keep recruiting some cav down there. We did win over in Northia, and actually what happened was kind of funny, because in Northia, first we won against the independents, which we expected to do. We did lose the remainder of our Tianchi footmen in the process, however. I think pretty much all of them. Well, it looks like we still should have some at the end of this battle, but then we ran into Midgard. We were bumped. Midgard sent in the Pikeneers, so this is the mercenary group. Giuseppe's the Armored Fist of God. And we beat them by a very simple expedient. They had their commander in the rear, and so our Barbarian Heavy Horse ran all the way over to the rear and murdered him. And the enemy was immediately routed. But in the process, of course, they killed all of our footmen. And we took out a few of them as they ran, but without Giuseppe, they are done for. So we lost 3 archers and all 5 of our footmen, leaving us with some archers and some Barbarian Heavy Horse. Putin the Horned Serpent then left to go do whatever it is that he does. And we remain here with no infantry. I could recruit some light infantry, I suppose. Or I could just recruit more cavalry, which is what I think I'm going to do. We're going to recruit we're going to recruit one more barbarian heavy horse this turn. So, I need to do some diplomacy with Midgard. I also need to do some diplomacy with Man. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to end the turn, like, now, because I'm doing this after work, and the turn is close to ending in any case. A couple of hours, so people probably aren't going to respond to my diplomatic overtures. This army is now too weak to take out independent provinces reliably, just because indie provinces have a strong tendency to have 3 or 4 commanders. So, next turn, we should be able to get another province. We'll get one more barbarian horseman. It's going to take 2 turns to recruit him. Ugh. So, what I'm going to have to do, actually, is I'm going to have to, I guess, only 34 resources here. Yeah, there's not a good way to do this, unfortunately. Here's what I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to move one of these guys over here. And we'll get a couple of same again here. What we can get in terms of recruitment. Over here, Ford Prefect, he might as well search for magic sites real quick, just to see if there's a holy site. Grab a barbarian heavy horse, and then they can collapse down onto Strongdale next turn, which should be fine. Up here, we're recruiting another wave of cavalry. Kill that barbarian horseman to get another heavy horse, so I think it's solid barbarian heavy horse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Fantastic. It is turn 5, so in a couple more turns I will want to start my first fort. And I would love to have a fort in Northia. Northia is a great place for fort construction. Doesn't have the best resources, but it does have high recruitment points. And it has some pretty high resource producing provinces nearby. So if I can snag those 3, it should be pretty solid. I would also like... well, I'd like to get other forts pretty much anywhere. Baguloth would be a good place to get another fort. We also saw a battle in Centania, where Man attacked. And Man, it transpires, has gone for a very curious bless. So this is Bro with a Fro, Man's Prophet. His bless is magic weapons, decay weapons, precision missile range, poison resistance, HP, blood surge, and dark vision. Dark vision in particular I find curious. I'm not sure why he would go for that, but he did. I see the logic here, but I don't think it necessarily works out very well. The logic here is Wardens, Middle-Aged Man's sacred units, have a crossbow attack, which is quite high quality. And they also have a strong melee attack. So the idea, I think, here is that with this bless, the magic and decay weapons effects apply to the missile as well, and with the missile range plus 30%, their crossbows will be quite long range, plus the precision bless. So this is a real wide rainbow bless. I mean, because they've got astral, death, air, nature, and blood. Astral, death, air, nature, and blood. Yeah, they've got 5 paths in there. All the sorcery paths plus air, which is a very wide random, but well, so here, watch what happens, because these Wardens of Man, they're strong units, but they're by no means invulnerable units in melee. And so they're set to attack. He actually got interrupted, so he didn't get the bless off early on. So these guys are going into melee unblessed. But even with the bless, it wouldn't change a whole lot. I mean, they get the bless there, and they get blood surge and the decay weapons, which helps them out in melee. But honestly, decay weapons is only really good against giants, who might otherwise survive. And you can see, they took a lot of casualties against random indie heavy infantry right there. If we look at how that battle ended, they lost 8 units, 5 of which were Wardens. So while in terms of numbers they haven't lost a ton, actually this expansion party has been critically weakened. And for example, if we were to collide in Baguloth with the troops that I'm sending, I would feel pretty confident about winning. Just because his Wardens are not going to stand up to lance charges from the Ancestor vessels. And of course, neither is his commander. So, if we bump in Baguloth, we bump in Baguloth. You know, he goes this far and no further. In fact, it's probably worth pushing him out of Centania if I can. Because Centania is quite a valuable province. But in any case, we've got more cavalry recruiting. I'm actually recruiting an Ancestor Smith for the first time because I have a little bit of money, and I want to get some of those smithy boys coming out. They are old, unfortunately, so in winter and such they may get afflictions, but I have growth 3, and which helps against that. This army, like I said, unfortunately, is just going to have to stay put. I don't have... I can't risk trying to expand with it this turn. But next turn, I should have enough troops to take that, and then maybe we can go somewhere. Probably we can't go anywhere after that. In fact, I may double back to hit Setica instead. Depends on what I see. Over here, we're moving my scout further into Ulmish territory. And we don't have a scout there yet. So yeah, that's the situation. It's interesting. Like I said, I'm going to have to definitely start negotiating with these two. And the question that immediately comes up is, who am I going to go to war with first? Now, part of that is going to be determined by throne placement. We need 5 thrones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we need all but 3 thrones. We need 5 thrones in order to take the win. So we've got a throne there, we've got a throne there, a throne there, a throne there. I've got 4 thrones pretty much equidistant. If I can take all 4 of those, then the only other one I'll need would be the next closest throne is... That's one of the 4 already. Either there or there. So basically, because that's the whole height of the world. So basically, at that point, I'm going to have to go through either Ulm or Midgard. And of course, to get these 2 thrones, I'm definitely going to have to fight Man as well. So I think those 2 are probably going to be my early rivals, as it were. And Midgard may well be a rival for this throne as well, because that's his capital, so he could easily go up this way. So, yeah. My strategy is, I think, going to be to fight Midgard first. And then potentially Man later. So I'll try to make peace with Man. We'll see how this goes this turn, because I may bump. And if I do bump, then, of course, depending on what the results are, we'll figure out where we go from there. But research plan continuing apace, albeit very, 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 very slowly, because I'm not really doing any research yet. Because I'm using my mages for things. And we'll see where we are next turn. Actually, that's heavy cavalry. Light infantry, crossbowmen, heavy infantry. 1 turn of cavalry recruitment might be able to take them out. We might try it. We'll probably double up from here and go up there and take 2 provinces next turn, hopefully. Cross your fingers, knock on wood. So, I'll see y'all in turn 6.